You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Upland Brits. What up, rookies, and welcome to episode 25 of the Upland Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Will Larson. As always, this is presented by Upland Brits. Also, thank you to Eukanuba Sporting Dog, Trinity Bretons, and Pointer Traditions. Hey, with Pointer Traditions, use promo code ROOKIE15 to save 15% off your order from Pointer Traditions. You're thinking, hey, what does Pointer Traditions have that I need? Dog collars. Yes, badass, fantastic dog collars. I'm using both these on Gage and Win, and they are just fantastic. I love the way they look, love their color schemes, durable, I love them. So check out Pointer Traditions. They will do custom sizes for you, which was a huge selling point for me with my small Brits. I wanted a 1-inch thick collar, but a little bit shorter neck size, and they came through and delivered. So thank you to the Pointer Traditions team. Also, with Trinity Bretons, go back to last week's episode if you have not listened already. I did an episode with Josh Ryder from Trinity Bretons. Fantastic episode. I think got a lot of good feedback so far. We talk trials, breeding, Epinal Bretons, learn more about Josh's story growing up and getting into bird dogs. So don't miss that one. That was a really fun conversation last week, episode 24. Also, I promised you on last week's episode that I was going to announce the newest sponsor of the podcast. And I am proud to say that newest sponsor is Gunner Kennels. Yes. Gunner Kennels. I could not be more excited to, one, have Gunner Kennels and using Gunner Kennels. They are the kennel I have been looking for, and I'm actually going to unpack in this intro a little bit more of what I have been looking for in a kennel, kind of my own, I don't know if you want to call it scoring system or a review system of kennels. Because if you've been following me for any amount of time, you are going to know I've tried literally every kennel brand out on the market besides the Pet Mate, I think, if that's even a thing. But tried every big kennel brand out there over the last 4 years, and I have come up with kind of a system that I have a kennel, I review it, I feel it, I'm using it, have kind of a system that I use and criteria that I'm looking for to review this kennel. So anyways, Gunner Kennels, thank you so much. I'm really excited to have you guys helping sponsor this podcast, making this all possible. Okay, first disclaimer, I am in the middle of a cold right now, so if I don't sound fantastic, that is why. 3 of our kids were sick last week, and 2 are sick this week. So just a fair heads up, if I sound miserable, that is why. Okay, all right, now we can move on. Sip my coffee. All right, so first off with Gunner Kennels, just full transparency, I bought 2 kennels myself without a sponsorship, without intention of having a sponsorship with them. So I just want that to be clear. After I had these kennels and we were using them for a while, got connected with Gunner and figured out a sponsorship with them. So just full transparency, I like to just let you guys know how this went down. I didn't just get free stuff or whatever because I have a podcast. I bought these kennels myself. After the fact, it just so happened and it worked out. Got a sponsorship with them. So full transparency, I just like to be upfront with everyone and share all those good details. Anyways, I'm going to go through what I look for in a kennel, and I'll kind of chat briefly about what Gunner has, what I've seen in their kennels that really has stood out to me. So, my 5 categories that I've looked through in kennels are size, and I say size for my Brittany's. Okay, it's going to be different for everyone. Size for my Brittany's, door quality and locks, overall build quality, safety rating, and customer service. Yes, those are my 5 categories. Now, I will say, like I mentioned, I've tried all the major kennel brands out there. Rufflin, Primos, Dakota, and now Gunner. Yes, I think it's a big 4. Yeah, big 4. So I've tried all those ones. These kennels, I'm not going to go into specifics on each of these other kennels, but some of the ones I've used have knocked it out of the park with some of these categories, which I've been very happy with. But then other areas I've just not been happy with. So I was kind of on the pursuit and just fine tuning like the setup that worked for me. I know it's going to be so different for each and every person out there. Size, quality, like we're all going to value different things. So I understand that. I hope you understand that as well. What I value and what I place as a priority is going to differ from every person out there probably. So again, size. Size for my Brittany's, I don't need a huge ass kennel for a little 40-pound Brittany. I just don't. And some other kennels out there knocked out of the park in some categories with their doors and quality, all this kind of stuff, but the size was just too darn big. One for safety. Say you don't want a huge kennel for your dog. You don't want a ton of extra space. Again, God forbid, you got in an accident or something happened. You don't want a ton of extra room where your dog's getting thrown from one end of the kennel to the other. That's just going to create more harm for your dog than good. So you want a little bit, of a tighter size kennel for your dog where again, accident happens and they're not being thrown from one end to the other. The other was just for my setup. I have the leer topper and the decked system in my pickup, and I needed it to fit on the decked, but not and be able to slide in and out and without hitting the topper. And so some kennels out there did that, some have not, and the Gunners fit absolutely perfectly on that decked and under that topper. So super excited there. That was a huge win for me. The other thing was versatility. 99% of the time they're in the back of the pickup, but once in a while I do want to throw them in the back seat, and so I can get 2 of these Gunner medium kennels back to back in the back seat of my F-150. So versatility and options there just gives me some flexibility. If I'm hauling something or something's in the back of the pickup, I can have the option to move them. So again, some kennels were able to do that, some were not, just because of their size. Okay, so that's size. That's the first thing I look at. Door quality and locks. This is a huge one for me, actually. I just really want a quality, strong, smooth door. It's a huge deal, and quality will go off first. Just want to, quality. Build quality is nice. These Gunner kennels are all stainless steel hardware. They're as tough as nails. Locks is a big one. A couple things with that. I wanted something that could lock with a key. Just gives me that peace of mind if I'm going to eat somewhere or whatnot. Just lock their kennel doors with a key and have that peace of mind. The other thing is, those of you who are using Gunner kennels or kennel with young kids around, young toddlers maybe, if you don't. Okay, when my dogs are at the house, I'm not locking the key to their kennel door. But little toddlers love to go over to that little paddle lock or the paddle latch on a kennel door and just open it, because it's super easy. It's super fun to let the dog out of the kennel when dad's not looking. So what these Gunner kennels have, which is fan-freaking-tastic, is on top and bottom they have kind of an extra push latch. That's really freaking tough for a toddler to manipulate. And that is just a best idea I've seen, because when I put them in there, I close the door and then just do sometimes just one of those latches, and the toddler are not getting in that kennel. So it has become kind of a safety thing. There's a kennel I used a while back that if I didn't use the key, the toddlers would constantly just go out to the garage, open that door, and dogs would be free running around our neighborhood. So definitely not safe. And just kind of annoying. So anyways, this was a really, really nice part. Again, I just don't want to have to be using a key every single time I put them in their kennels. So that worked out really, really well. Overall build quality, that's a third category. These things are just freaking overbuilt in the best way possible. Super tough, super safe. And this kind of comes with a fine balance of weight. If you are, moving these kennels in and out of, say, the house or the garage to your truck or back and forth, you don't want a kennel that's so freaking heavy that, I have a bad back. I have a couple herniated discs in my back, bulge disc, all that good stuff. And I just have to be careful and smart with kind of what I'm lifting, how I'm lifting it. And so I did get the medium size, which again, size-wise, ideal for my dogs. But they're just not so heavy that I dread picking them up or I dread bringing them out, cleaning them in the backyard. So, but the build quality is, you can tell it's there. As soon as you open the box and get this thing out, it is there. So yeah, freaking amazing. I love it. Safety rating kind of goes into build quality, I think, but just this is a big factor of having something that the company stood behind as far as a safety rating goes, and the testing really. Gunner has put a lot of testing into their kennels with crash test ratings and tests, and that's just really appealing to me. The more I'm traveling, the more I'm on the road with my dogs, God forbid something happens and get into an accident, having that peace of mind with your dogs in the back. We have so much invested into our bird dogs, guys. Time, money, effort, sweat, tears, blood, you name it. We have so much invested into these dogs that it was really, really appealing to me to have something with a company really standing behind and putting in the work to do testing for crashes. And so big thing that I really enjoyed, really appreciated with this company. Last category is customer service. This is huge, guys, for any company that I'm dealing with. Customer service is king. Gunner has been fantastic for the last actually couple years. I've reached out to them randomly different times, because I almost pulled the trigger on kennels a while back and was kind of asking them some questions about the kennels, and always super responsive, friendly. They'd go in depth to answer my question, and that has been consistent for the last couple of years with Gunner. Purchasing these new kennels, working out, sponsorship with them for the podcast, just fantastic people. And that goes a really, really long way to gaining my business, my trust, and I will definitely be a supporter of Gunner Kennels for a long freaking time. So a couple bonus things with these kennels. One, the carry handles are included. You don't have to buy them separately like some companies, which is really nice. And also the bottom of the kennels have grip feet on them, which is huge. Being on a deck system, I do strap these down pretty much all the time. But if I have to toss them in there and just go for a quick ride somewhere, the kennels aren't sliding around. And these grip feet are heavy duty. They're fantastic. So really, really have enjoyed those. So overall, guys, that's kind of my process of kind of what I was looking for in a kennel. Again, it fits my needs. It fits me. So if you haven't checked out Gunner Kennels already, highly suggest you do so. It's just been fantastic. So I'll shut up. You're probably getting annoyed at me talking about my kennels. I know. When you get a gear junkie like me with new products and new gear like that, I start wigging out a little bit. So I get excited. But anyways, guys, that's it. Again, thank you to Gunner Kennels. All right, couple things before we jump into the episode. I got Travis Warren on from Upchukar podcast. I am really, really excited to have Travis on. I have followed Travis, from almost day one of when I got my bird dog. And kind of fun fact here is Travis and the Upchukar podcast was one of the first podcasts I listened to right after I got my bird dog, a first upland hunting podcast. I don't know what compelled me to kind of poke around and look for a hunting podcast, but I did, and Travis's podcast was the first one I stumbled across, and I was hooked. Shortly after that, got into Nick Larson's podcast and all that good stuff. And so went down this slippery slope of the Upland podcast world. And so Travis, you honestly, brother, have just been a big inspiration to me, following you for a long time. And you've put out some amazing stuff, some great interviews. So if you haven't checked out Travis's podcast, the Upchukar podcast, check that out wherever you listen to your shows. But anyways, hey, don't forget, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcast, and share the episode with a friend. Share it on social media, tag the Upland Rookie. Share it with your friends. Help get the word out there to more hunters just like you. All right, guys, enjoy. Well, cool, man. That was kind of fun talking podcasting for a little bit, but we're gonna kind of dive in here. I actually want to start off with something kind of fun. I know I actually see you got your decked hat on. Talk about your deck system and a little bit about your truck setup. Actually, I know you got that fairly recently, right? Why don't you talk about what you're rocking and why you made the change?
Well, I had a built-in wood system, wood and carpeted sleep system, bed system, whatever you want to call it, that had storage along the sides. I actually repurposed it. My buddy and I found it in his grandpa's old barn. It was for like a 78 step side Ford or something. So we took it over to his dad's house and did some remanufacturing, recarpeting. Had like some like 70s blue shag carpet on it, and with like rat feces, and it was just disgusting. So I had that in, and I had that for many, many years. It was actually a really a great piece, considering the fact that I didn't pay anything for it. It actually did really well. And then it just sort of gave up the ghost a couple seasons ago. And so I ended up ripping it out, realized actually how much space I had in the back of the truck, and ended up just consolidating all my recovery gear. Because that's essentially what I would keep in the truck mostly, was all my recovery gear. I just consolidated it all into a one of those yellow and black Costco tubs.
Oh yeah. Yep. I got
12
of those behind me.
So yeah, those things are a dime a dozen in my house. And it worked okay, but the problem is that when you start throwing a set of 4 chains in there, a bottle jack, a large star wrench, and it sort of just adds up in weight, and then trying to actually move that thing from the very front of the truck or the very front of the bed all the way to the back where you could utilize it. You near enough throw your back out just trying to pull that thing up. And so it was not very, although it was cheap and it was doable and it worked very well, it was actually just not efficient. And I actually missed having a raised sleeping platform that I could sleep on that was off of the metal. And so anyways, so my buddy, my good buddy, hunting partner, Matt Harding, actually works for Decked. And so he was able to get me connected and get me one, which was really nice. And so I work with Decked obviously now.
Nice.
And it's for me, being somebody who is just likes to be organized.
Sure.
It's actually something that has been a great pleasure to have. I've actually got it organized now. I just put a video together that I'll be putting out on how I have it organized for bird season.
Oh, right on.
It has the locking each side is has locks on it.
Sorry, real quick. Do you have a topper on yours, or is it just open in your truck? Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the challenges. So I always have a topper. I mean, I used to have a Toyota Tacoma back in the day, and I ended up getting a shell on it. And then after that, I was never owned a truck that didn't have a camper shell on it.
Sure.
And
I've heard once you go topper, you never go back.
I think so. For me, I like to sleep in the back of the truck. I think it's it basically is your portable tent.
Yeah.
Everything's right there. And so I will always have it because it's an easy place to set up your sleep system. So
sure.
But yeah, no, the deck is great. I mean, I always laugh, because I do have OCD, and I just think it makes my OCD so happy.
Yeah.
To have this organization. And so, I keep on the right side, I keep all my recovery gear and extra food and a bunch of stuff. And then on the left side is all of my stuff that gets moved out on a regular basis. So, my pack goes in there. I have some recovery boards in there. I've got my shotgun that goes in there. I've got all my collars that go in there, my handheld, all the stuff that's going to be moving in and out on a frequent basis goes on the left side. All the stuff that stays in there and doesn't move goes on the right. And then, my truck, so I have a full size, although it's a half ton, I have that full size Dodge Ram 1500. Okay. And I've had it for many years, but mine never came with a locking rear tailgate.
Oh, okay.
So I never had that feature. So that there was no way to actually really secure anything in the back of my truck. So even when I had the topper that had the locking keys, for the rear window, you could still just open my rear tailgate and get inside.
There's a problem with that. There's a problem.
Well, and so I ended up recently just buying an aftermarket just handle and just basically fitting the tailgate with that. So it does work now. So I do have it, and it is able to lock. But everything is very well secured. I know where everything is, and it's just really nice because I do rely on my truck. My truck is an extension of sort of myself when I'm out hunting. So I do know, and I have experienced it. And, if I break down, I can survive.
Sure.
If something catastrophic happens, at least if I can get to my truck, I have a good chance.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about that actually quite a bit on the podcast, just on kind of like being prepared for those things that you're saying. It sounds like you're carrying quite a bit of, like you said, recovery gear with you. And is that just because of the terrain you're hunting in?
Yeah, absolutely. I just think there's no reason not to, especially when you own a truck. You have the space for it. Even if you didn't have a deck system and you could just put things in a tote, there's no reason, because it doesn't take up that much space to have all that stuff and be prepared. It's an insurance policy, just like insurance policies for your car. It shouldn't be called insurance policy. It should be called in case shit happens, because that's the only time you ever need it.
Right. Of course.
And so
fair point.
And so all that stuff, it has come in handy at some point. Toe straps have come in handy. I've needed them. Chains, I've needed them. Being able to change a tire, I've needed that. I got a patch kit too. I haven't needed that, but I've got the spare tire.
Sure.
Extra food, I've needed. Extra water, I've needed. I carry extra set of sunglasses and gaiters in there for my kids. And so, we go to the lake and they're like, I didn't bring my sunglasses. Yep. I can open the back up and here you go.
Dad's got you.
So Dad's squared away. It's like Dad's big man purse, and so, everything
that should be Deck's new slogan.
Dad's new man purse.
Yes.
Could be Mom's new woman purse too. But, they're very convenient, and I spend so much time in my truck during the season traveling around to hunt that it's just nice to have everything secured. It's nice to have a platform to sleep on. And the only downfall for me was that I do run an extra large kennel for both the dogs.
Okay.
Because I like to keep them both in one kennel. For instances when I like to sleep in the back, having two kennels in the back does obviously take up the entire breadth of the back. So it's hard to sort of get yourself into sleep. And I'm 6'2", so I take up the entire back of one side. So having them in an extra large kennel, it helps me to kind of keep them secure. They actually can, obviously feed off each other's body heat as well.
Sure. Are you running a raised a topper that's a little bit slightly higher, or is it?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I have just a regular flat top, and so the extra large kennel won't fit in.
Oh, okay.
Now I haven't tried to loosen the topper to lift it to then put it in, because I actually used, just like you have in your garage. My dogs sleep in their kennels at night, so I use it. So for me, it was a matter. I'd always, when we would leave, I'd put it in there, load the dogs up. When I got home, I'd let the dogs out, take it down, put it back in the garage, and they would sleep in there at night. So I move it too much to keep it in the back of my truck the entire time. So I do. So the only one that fits in there is a medium, like a medium large that fits in the back with the deck system and the topper.
Okay.
So that's kind of, for me, like the only bummer, because now I'm in a situation where I'm like, well, what do I do with my kennels? Like I can't get them in.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of in that.
Yeah. I experienced a very similar thing to what you're saying. I've had to play with that a little bit because same deal. I did some measuring before I got my deck, and I was like, yeah, I think what I have will work. And unfortunately, it didn't. And I had to kind of switch things up a little bit and kind of went back to the intermediate Rufflands just to because they again could slide in and out really easy. So just you have to do what you got to do.
It is something just to be considerate, to consider when kind of going that route. But yeah, I mean, in terms of my ability to organize my life, I love it. That's good. I really do.
That's good. Well, as you were talking, I just kind of realized I don't think I actually introduced you. So put us on the map and also just tell us a little bit, who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Travis Warren, and I am the host of the Upchukar podcast, upchukar.com. And I mean, really anything involving chukar hunting is really where my focus is. And so I live out in Nevada. I live outside of Reno. So I live right in the heart of chukar country. And that's pretty much what started it all for me. I was just a chukar hunter, and I thought it'd be fun to maybe write a story, maybe start to write a little bit. And so I sat down and wrote and ended up writing a couple of stories, and I sent them to a friend, and my friend said, you should start your own blog. So that's kind of where Upchukar came from. And then it has just been sort of a snowball from there. And so now, obviously, running and producing and hosting the podcast, which, all the same difference for you. I mean, you can say those words, but it doesn't really make you, that's what it takes to do a podcast.
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot behind the scenes.
And so, it's been 3 years, and I've really enjoyed the entire journey, because more so than anything, I've met some of the most wonderful people that I would never have met otherwise had I not taken the leap and just tried. So that for me has been the biggest reward, and something I cherish the most from the effort that I put in is just they're really just the genuinely great people that I've met along the way. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I love it. So I tuned into your podcast probably right around when I got my first dog. And I remember some of those early episodes, and you were sharing a little bit about just chukar hunting. And I was a new upland hunter. And I'm like, what the hell is a chukar? I was like, what is this thing? So your podcast has definitely helped open my eyes to those little devil birds.
Yeah, it's amazing. I didn't really realize, nor did I expect anybody to really find it interesting. But I've actually realized that there's people all across the world that really enjoy chukar hunting. And I really have discovered this much larger community outside my own little sphere of understanding, which I think it just in terms of a global perspective makes life just so much more interesting and so much more colorful. And I just think so much more rich. So, it's amazing. Sort of the unintended result is, you're learning so much. I'm learning so much about different cultures, different countries, different people. And this commonality, this thread is chukar hunting. And it's the way that you do it, and the terrain you find yourself in is just, it's actually quite universal in how it looks across the board. And it's just amazing. It's really interesting and really keeps me engaged.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Would you mind sharing briefly just a little bit of your story on how you got started hunting? Is it something you grew up doing, or did you get into it later in life?
I ended up not hunting as a kid. We were into dirt bike racing, and I was into skateboarding, and that was really what took my life up. My dad built and raced race boats down in Southern California. And it wasn't until I met my wife that I really actually started. I really started considering hunting as something that I'd like to do. And I didn't really have any idea about social media, didn't have any of that crap. It was more or less that my wife's father is a huge hunter, a huge fisherman, and really doesn't have much interest in talking about anything else. And I realized that my interests didn't align with his. And so having conversations was quite a challenge. And I really wanted him to like me. And so I started to sort of have an interest in hunting, more so to have things to talk about. And I I wanted to marry my wife. I wanted him to like me enough to say it was okay and
Smart
to have
man.
his blessing.
Smart
and
man.
So, yeah. So, it wasn't a straight road. It was, he introduced me to hunting. He used to raise chukar and pheasant. He had a cocker, not a cocker spaniel, but he had a Springer Spaniel. And so he hunted chukar here. It was a big part of his life. But as he got older and his dog died, he just never chukar hunted again. And so, but it was something that kind of came up in conversation. And then it wasn't until a buddy of mine, actually, that I lived around the corner from, was into chukar hunting, and he invited me to go with him. And so my father-in-law had won this Remington 870 at a Ducks Unlimited banquet or something, and gave me my first shotgun. And so I went out, tried it, and I just enjoyed hanging out with my buddy. And he had a dog that wasn't worth a shit. And I think we shot like one time and the thing ran off, and we spent a ton of time looking for it. But it was still a good time. We had a good time. We didn't shoot anything. It actually took me quite a number of years to shoot my first chukar. So I just kind of kept just working my butt off trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I was collecting stories along the way. And they were stories I was able to share with my father-in-law. We talked, and he would share his wisdom and his experiences and give me some advice. And so it was a really great way for me to develop a relationship with a man that I would probably still have a challenged relationship to this day with, had I not picked it up. Sure. And his advice to me from the very beginning was always, hey, Travis, it's great. You can come hunting with me, but I just like to do this to get out. I don't care if I shoot anything. I don't care if I see anything. It's an excuse to get out of the house. So you need to find people your own age, that your own fitness level, that want to hunt the way that you want to hunt. So that was actually some of the best advice I ever got. And it was a matter of starting to look outside myself, see if, who around me was interested in this, and then having people who were open enough to take me out. And then eventually it was just something that I decided, it was something that grew into this thing that I just love doing, and I just get excited about it. And it's become part of my own identity now as being a chukar hunter. And so had I never met my wife, and I probably would never have been a hunter, to be totally honest with you. Wow. I can't imagine maybe there being another nexus to make it happen. Sure. So I was really, at the end of the day, became a hunter because I just wanted my father-in-law to like me.
And look where you are now.
And that's the honest to God truth.
That's a pretty unique story, man. I love that. Being in Reno, Nevada, is chukar hunting, is it still, I guess I shouldn't say still, is it a very niche hunting opportunity? Oh, yeah. Okay. Is it pretty hard to find people that are...
No, it's not a niche hunting opportunity. It's a niche hunting market. That's for sure. But we like it that way. I think you sort of find it along the same lines as your backcountry elk hunters. I think it's an aspirational type of endeavor for people who don't live here or where you have access to chukar. But there's a ton of chukar hunters here. Excuse me. There's a ton of chukar, anywhere within chukar country, you're going to find a ton of chukar hunters. Because it's something that is, it's a hell of a challenge. It seems to be generational in terms of, it's something that's passed down. It's something that you start doing with your grandpa or your dad or your uncle, and you just sort of chukar hunt, probably like you sit in a whitetail blind, if you lived in back east somewhere. It's so there's this generational chukar camps that happen, these sort of, it's definitely something that I've noticed over the years where, guys that I know still go out with their dads or their grandpas. And so it's a big part of what we do here. And it's a big part of the style of hunting that I think most Western hunters really like to do. They like to be,
because it has a flavor of big game hunting. Is that true? You think?
Yeah.
I mean, the terrain,
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I think probably physically it requires a lot more than some of your big game hunting. If you think about it, you can hunt mule deer out of a side-by-side. You can drive around in glass for mule deer, and then you see one that's relatively close enough for you to hike to, you could go and shoot one, and then you'd be over with. Now, doesn't really work that way with chukar hunting. Chukar hunting, I think, I think chukar hunting can directly translate to hard hunting. Because you have to go out into places where there's not many people. You have to really push into places to find birds maybe that are not as pressured as other ones. So there's a real adventure associated with chukar hunting, and it's hard work because regardless of whether or not you find them on the first hill or the 10th hill, you got to go get them. There's no really hunting them out of a side-by-side or driving down. Sometimes you get lucky and you drive down the road and they're flying off the road and you just slam the brakes on and you go on a quick walkabout. But I mean, for the most part, you're going to drive somewhere, you're going to drive to the base of a mountain and you have to start hiking. And some days it works out well for you. Some days it's harder than hell. But either way, there's some sweat equity that's going to be paid in order for you to end up getting a bird.
Definitely.
So I just think that it just aligns itself with sort of the tough-minded people you find out here.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. Hey, how was this past season for you? What were the Chukar Hills like for you?
In the very beginning they were okay, and then there was a real big sort of drought in the middle portion. It seemed like we didn't get a ton of weather. We didn't get a ton of significant weather. It seemed like winter sort of took a while to get here too, so it was hot for a longer period of time than I can remember. Okay. So that did. And I think what happened with that was that that and the pandemic put a lot more people out there and a lot more people who didn't really understand etiquette. So you would go somewhere, you get people showing up and parking next to you and hunting the same hill. And so, you got people who, great. I think it's fantastic. They get out and they want to try something new. I think the pandemic was probably for nothing better. It actually got people outside their own homes and got them to sort of reconnect with nature. But you had a lot more people and a lot more continuous pressure because people weren't going to work. So you had people hunting throughout the week when traditionally the birds would have an opportunity to rest during the week. Maybe a little bit of pressure, but they would rest during the week and then it would be, game on for the weekend. So the birds seem to be pressured. And so the heat, the dry temperatures, and the pressure seemed to really mess with them a lot. And they were really jumpy or they were really scattered out. And then some weather started coming in. And then really it was traditionally like it was in the latter portions of every season where I think it just gets really good. You get less people going out because the weather's not very good anymore. It's harder to access places. And then you really sort of start to parse out, the real chukar hunters from the fair weather chukar hunters. Sure. And then, you end up getting into some good bird numbers. We got into some great bird numbers towards the end of the season. Nice. Great dog work. And so it was a ton of fun. I transitioned into a 20 gauge over under this year. So there was a learning curve with that. Nice. So there's a learning curve with that. There was a learning curve with, accessing shotgun, consistently the same shotgun shells. Sure. Because there was a limit on it. They were at a premium. So, for me, it was a lot of trial and error. And even through the summer still kind of messing with some stuff, messing with some loads, messing with some chokes, and just kind of finding out what the best is. And so I'm really looking forward to this season.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What over under did you go with?
I got that Franke SLX.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. I have the LX. It's a great gun.
Yeah. I have a Franke. So I have this Franke 12 gauge. It's part of like the L series, but it was one that they made special for Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay. So it came with it's like a bare bones 12 gauge L. So it came with nothing. It came with no chokes, came with no case. It didn't come with anything. And so, so I actually got that off of a sales rack. It was brand new. Somebody traded it in. So I got it for like $600. And that actually is one of the reasons why I really liked Franke, was because I bought that gun. And the cast is pretty neutral. So I'm a left-handed shooter. Oh, okay. So for me, trying to find a gun that seats well, has been a challenge over the years. And so I've actually just shot right-handed guns, but the Franke actually makes a pretty decently neutral cast. Nice. As much as I'm going to be able to find in an over under. So yeah, it's great. I mean, one of the big learning curves too was going from swinging a plank which is a 12 gauge, swinging, swinging something much lighter. So
big difference.
So timing for shots and things like that. And that gun actually seems to only like the modified choke.
Okay.
Every time I'd use a different choke, like a light modified or an improved cylinder or something like that, the patterns would get just all kind of weird. Okay. But the modified seemed just to be the one that it liked the most. The pattern the best.
Running a modified in both top and bottom.
Yeah, that's what I did in the off season. I ended up buying another modified choke, and I just run modified top and bottom. I mean, I figured the rationale being is that if you were to hunt with a semi-automatic, you only have one shot, one choke anyways. And so if you're, generally you're grabbing for your modified. Yeah. So that seems to be the easiest one. So, if I'm going to hunt with I have a Beretta A400 Explorer as well. Okay. I'm going to hunt with that with a modified. I might as well just put modified in my over under and call it a day.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. I actually have not patterned my over under yet. I need to probably get out there and do that. I picked it up last year. I've had it for a full season. And I just kind of left the chokes in that came with it and did good. So I haven't messed with it too much, but
and I think
get out there and see what it does.
Well, if you're shooting well with it, my opinion being, and take it for what it's worth, I'm not really a huge gun guy. If you're already shooting well with it, I think if you go pattern it, you
just
might
leave
start
it alone.
You might start screwing with your mind.
That's good advice, actually. That's actually really good advice.
For me, I felt like there was times I'd shoot low. I'd have that right where I needed it to be, and I'd shoot, and then I'd see like the sagebrush below, pepper, and I'm like, how the hell did that happen? Like, what the hell's going on? So, I definitely had some struggles last year. But I think it seems like the modified choke is the one that it really likes the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. Switching birds a little bit. Are you doing, or did you do last year, the Himalayan snowcock hunt? Or is that coming up?
I did that twice. I did that twice last year.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. So I do that every year. Okay. I do that every year for this will be the fourth year I've been doing it. Got a bird the first 2 years. This last year we tried a whole different area, an area I wanted to go and check out. We actually got onto birds, but it was so dry up there that we ended up running out of water, and we just couldn't live up there any longer. The birds outstayed us, and it was a little bit different in terms of how you'd hunt them. And then I came back, so that was opening a weekend, and then I actually came back about a month and a half later and hunted back in a different spot with my buddy Jay and my other buddy Gerhardt, and we did great. I actually shot a bird, but I brought the 20 gauge up there. The 20 gauges didn't have enough in it. Okay. Even with 3-inch 4s in it, it just did not have enough punch in it. Yeah. So, I mean, I hit the bird was doing the dead bird shuffle on the ground. And I swear I was like, that thing was dead to rights. Yeah. And it got back up and flew off like nothing ever happened. Wow. Yeah. They're really tough birds. They're very similar in terms of their structure, in my opinion, as like a sage grouse. So like a sage grouse has a very strong back designed to sort of protect itself from predation. And so their wings create like a shell, almost on a hog. On a hog, their flanks get real, become armor for them. Sure. Their wings and their back, I think, just become like armor for them, and it's a lot to kind of get through to penetrate into a deadly shot. So you definitely if nothing more, like that is really where you have to pattern. You have to know you have to know what your gun's doing. You have to know what shot size your gun likes. You have to know where your pattern's at. That's the one where I really get very particular about patterning, about what I do, shells I take, because I don't want that to happen again, because that was a real big letdown. So yeah, that's a bummer, man. It is what I mean. It's just hunting. You're not always going to be successful. Totally. It sucks to leave a potentially wounded bird out there. Especially a trophy like that. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What? So for anyone out there listening to this, again, a lot of new people getting into upland hunting, maybe chukar hunting is on their list. Just can you give a brief overview for someone who does not know, like what? If you're a first time chukar hunter, you want to go chase chukar. What do they need to know? I guess some of the basics, like what to look for, what not to look for, some of that well, stuff. I think first and foremost, you need to know what you're looking for. So you need to know what the bird looks like. And I mean, the bird's a very unique looking bird. and it seems like it would stick out, but actually they blend in so incredibly well to their terrain. So, I mean, it's about a pounder sized bird. It's sort of slate gray in color. It's got this black band that runs from the eyes down its neck. And so it's sort of really gives and encapsulates that idea that it's sort of like this devil bird, this bandit, it's got this bandit stripe. It's got bars along the side of its body, which kind of goes in line with the robber, with the bank robber face mask.
Sure.
But then it's got these very prominent red beaks and red legs, and that's why it's called the red-legged devil, or even red-legged partridge or whatever. But most people just call it affectionately like a red-legged devil because it'll run uphill and then it'll fly downhill, and it's generally not very easy slopes, and so and they have a very unique sound that they make. Huns will, they whistle or whatever when they fly. Sure. Chukar when they fly, or even when they're calling to each other, they make a very distinct chuk, 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 sound. And so a lot of the times, even when I have my dog, I'll listen, I'll stop, I'll try and catch my breath. I'll try and listen because it's a tell. You can hear them calling. It's almost like they're a very gregarious bird. They're a very social bird. They like to move around. They like to be in groups. And so with that being said, they like to make noises to keep each other together, to know where everybody is. So, knowing what they look like is important. And any fish and game that has a bird season for them, you can easily find, or you can just Google what a chukar looks like and it'll show you. But generally you're generally going to see them as they fly. So knowing what they go with as they fly is kind of a tell as well. But when you get in there, just listening for that.
That's interesting.
Listening is really important for when you go out. And then really, if you're to get out there and to do it, you just really have to find a place that would be agreeable for a chukar. And so they want a location that's going to have some elevation and some angle to the slopes, because like I said, they'll run uphill to get away from predators, but they'll also fly downhill. So they want some angle. So canyons, anything, any steep slopes, sagebrush, cheatgrass, bunch grass, water source is a very important thing to look for. If you can find a mountainside that looks pretty barren in regards to vegetation, there's a water source at the bottom. There's what we call rim rock, or sort of a rock that sort of encapsulates the top of it. They use that for shelter. You're probably going to be in a good place. And it's always good to start at the water source to see if you can see any signs of any crap or any prints in the mud. Okay. And then, they're going to have to water. And so they're going to come down there. So they're going to leave some evidence that they were there. So that's always a good way of starting.
Gotcha. Okay. That's awesome. And as far as location goes, for anyone wondering out there, is it literally just you look at a hill and just say, I'm going to go to that one? And if it has water, that's a bonus.
Well, I mean, not always. I mean, I don't think there's ever a hard, fast rule. I think nature is, and it'll do what it wants to do. And you can find an ideal location and it could have no birds. It's happened to me many times. What you tend to find and what you tend to look for is the farther you go away from people or large populaces, the more likely it is you're going to find birds that have been undisturbed, that you're probably going to have a bit of a higher likelihood of finding some or higher quantity of them. So you could find, there could be 3 birds on a hillside and you could walk right by them and they'll never give themselves up. And so I think in Nevada, with 87% public accessible land here, it can be a factor of you just look at a hillside and go. But I would say that, you need to get away. Like that doesn't always apply in Vegas. Vegas is not that way. Reno can be that way. Although I'm always a bigger fan of getting a little bit farther away from the larger populaces. And then if you can find a water source, it's a good place to start.
Okay. Very cool. Have you chased Chukar other places than Nevada?
Yeah, I've been up to Idaho. I was out in Utah last year. I've been to go to California.
Okay.
So it's definitely each terrain is slightly different from the other. Obviously, there's reasons why that the birds are there, and there's some similarities. But each state definitely has a very its own unique looking country. That's actually it's just very interesting. Like when I was in Utah this past year, there was no available water up top.
Okay.
The only way that the birds get water is when it snows or when it rains. And so, we were hiking these massive mountains to get to the top, and the birds were still up there. I mean, the birds were up there, and you look at them and there's no water source at the bottom. So there's no at least free water source that you can see. So, the birds are actually very hardy birds, and they'll dig up wild onions, and eat wild onions, wild garlic, things like that, to get enough moisture to sustain themselves over the dry periods. But yeah, I mean, places like Utah were a lot more drier and a lot steeper than I had thought. Places like Idaho, at least where I went, was just really that iconic looking Idaho Chukar country. California is very similar because we share a lot of the same mountain ranges. Southern Nevada, obviously there are Chukar down there. I've never actually ventured down there to hunt, so it looks a little bit different than what I've seen just through pictures. And it looks a lot drier out there as well.
Yeah. Okay. And are they mostly eating bugs or for like grass, or what are they eating up there on the mountains?
Yeah, it's year dependent, and it's the age of the bird dependent too. So a lot of the young birds will eat insects and things like that. Okay. Obviously green grasses are a huge staple of their diet. Okay. So when you can find water, and if there's green grasses that are going up, that's going to be a real good indicator that something living is going to be around there, whether it is chukar or whether it could be quail or sage grouse or huns or whatever. But those green grasses are huge, and you can generally look across the landscape because we're different out here, and you're in Colorado, right? So it's somewhat similar, probably on the west side more so, where a lot of your view and the vistas are unencumbered by trees. You don't get a ton of trees. It's very much open landscape. So the benefit of that is that you can actually look across a mile, 2 miles of open mountainside, and you can see where moisture is. You can see where water might be coming out of. You can see by the green, by the stark difference in the color of the vegetation. So those are good places to start in terms of looking for birds, because they're going to have to water and they're going to look for those green grasses. As the year progresses, you'll still get those green grasses that come up as snow melts, but they'll eat cheatgrass as well. Okay. So,
wow. That's awesome, man. Thanks for that's good advice. That's good. Gives people a little idea what to look for. Let's get into your dogs a little bit. Tell us about your dogs. What are you running?
So I have a German short hair and I have a German wire hair.
Okay.
So my German short hair is coming on 6 and my wire hair is 2. This is something that I get very opinionated about. And what I mean by opinionated is I mean that if you're really serious about wanting to get into bird dogs, you really need to do your homework. My first dog was, I did the most amount of homework I thought I could do. And I ended up going with a breeder, and I think I got, unfortunately, what I got. So I got a 50% dog, which is what I call my short hair. 50% of the time she shows up, she wants to be a hunter. Other 50% of the time, I have no idea what her plan is in life.
Interesting. Okay.
Sometimes it's just blowing out birds. Sometimes it's ruining her sister's points. So, she was a great first dog to get, but I ended up getting a dog from a breeder who wasn't really into hunting. They did field trials and stuff like that, but mostly for points, and they were really into show. So the dog looks fantastic. She's a beautiful dog, but you definitely, if you really want to get into bird hunting, do your homework and reach out to people. Because when I got my wire hair, I did a diligent. I did my diligence, and I was really looking for a specific kind of dog.
Okay.
And I got my dog by the time it was 1 year old, outperformed my 5-year-old dog.
Wow.
Just running circles around her. And then as of last year, like when the second season, it was just like, I would truthfully, I'd leave my other dog at home.
Wow.
And I would just, because for me, it wasn't any fun, because if I was to take both of them, the short hair would blow points for my wire hair, and I wouldn't even get shooting opportunities.
Oh, wow.
But I take that wire hair with me, and she'll slam on point. She'll hold that bird. She'll hold that covey until you get there.
Jeez.
And it was just, it was fun. It was everything I had envisioned hunting to be. So I think that this year is going to be slightly different. It's taken my older dog a little bit of time to warm up to the puppy and to really accept a subordinate role too, in terms of finding birds. Cause I think for so long, the older dog that was her job, and she didn't want anybody else to have any fun.
Sure.
And certainly not this damn puppy. And so
like, get out of my territory.
Well, I think a lot. I think she was really territorial in that regard. And so having the other dog, now they very much bonded. And so when I go out and I run them behind the house, we've got a ton of wild quail. The puppy will point, and now the older dog's starting to actually honor her point, which she would never. I'd never, up to this point, I've never seen her honor another dog's point ever.
Wow. Okay.
I'd have to whoa her into point. I'd have to shock her into point, something just to make sure she didn't blow the coveys out.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely one of those things where you're like, you don't know until you know the difference.
Sure.
But
how much do you contribute that to? Because they're different breeds, right? So do you contribute it to maybe your wire hair's breed, or do you really contribute it to the breeding of the short hair?
I think two things. I think I do equate it to the breeding, but I also equate it to the handler too. I mean, I think plain and simple.
Sure.
It was my first dog, so I can't give her all the blame. I accept responsibility wholly as well. But then again, the argument being is that I spent 4 or 5 times as much time training the wire hair, the short hair, than I ever did with the short hair, with the wire hair.
The wire hair just picked it up a little quicker, a little easier.
She was like 4 or 5 months old, pointing, planted pigeons at 30 yards away and allowing me to walk in front of her.
Nice.
There's just breeding, it's just good breeding and
good genetics and
good genetics, good breeding, it is just what it is. And I think that for me, it was an eye opener. I really haven't put a ton of effort into the wire hair. She's just naturally that good.
Kind of out of the box. She's ready to roll.
We do some work. We do some cleaning up work with some pigeons and stuff. But we run a lot on wild birds throughout the year. And I just think that it's what she was bred to do, and it's sobering. But I take the responsibility as much as I do for her. But yeah, man, I wish I would have known, because I spent a lot of time being frustrated, and, it's just not the way you want to jive. You definitely want to get into hunting, and you do want to hit the ground running. So I think that you definitely just do your homework. There's so much information out there, so much more than when I was first getting into it. There's a ton of information out there. So I just think it's important that, you reach out to people who have podcasts, you reach out to the breeders you see in Facebook and breeders you see in, on Instagram or whatever. There's just so much more available information than when I first started, or at least I didn't know where to look.
Sure. No, that's really good advice. How far are your dogs ranging in the Chukar Hills? Are they 400 or 500 yards, closer, further? What are they kind of typically doing?
No. So the older dog, she'll range out. She's like a 150-yard dog at the most. And then in that first season, I would see that puppy range out to 600 yards. It's not feasible, nor is it something I really care to have my dog range out that far. It doesn't do anything for me. But for me, like 150, 200 yards is perfect. Even if they want to push out to a little bit longer than that, that's fine. But for me, I mean, we had a great hunt towards the end of the season, and she was pointing a cubby at like 220 yards, but it's 220 yards like this. And I mean, it took me forever to get to him because it's just steep, it's shale. You know,
Sure.
you take a step and you slide down. You know, it's tough. It's tough hunting. But I mean, 600 yards out for a dog on point. I mean, those birds may just start moving. They may just get up and start walking away. So by the time you get there, they've moved off. The dog's still stuck on point. So I think there's a sweet spot. So for me, it's like that. It's like that 150, 200 yards.
Okay.
That's how I like it.
That's awesome. As I was going to ask, I sourced a couple questions for a Chukar hunter on Instagram last night, and someone asked, you specifically, but maybe just Chukar hunters in general, what are you seeing as far as expectation for the dog? Are they steady to wing shot, fall, release? Are they steady to shot? Are they chasing on the floor? Like what's kind of typical for and a good, I guess, for a Chukar dog?
I think that's everybody's individual, right? And I can only speak for myself. I am 100% okay as long as that dog holds point and allows me to get up there and to flush the birds. The moment those birds fly, I'm okay with the dog releasing.
Okay.
Because by that time, I'll usually be in front of the dog, or I'm angled off to the dog to the point where I can get my shots off. And those birds, especially if I get a cripple or something like that, the dog's right on them and they can pick them up. Okay. So I personally, I don't mind if they break off a flush.
Okay.
That's just me. I'm sure everybody has a different opinion or different feeling on it, but I think that there's a high likelihood that you could lose more birds if you make them hold until the very end. But everybody's dogs are different. I've seen so many different styles of dogs that do well. But that's just for me. That's what I'm happy with.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, since I mentioned the listener questions, if you don't mind, I'm going to go through just a couple of those as we wrap up here, and then we'll. I don't want to keep you too late. It's getting late here as well. But all right, all right, we're going to go with what kind of boots do I need for Chukar hunting?
I think it depends on the weather, and it depends on the time of year. I've hunted Chukar in trail runners because I left my boots at home. So,
so maybe not ideal, but you've done it.
Yeah. I think in the early season, I think one of the best boots I've ever worn, although they're not going to last you, is the Salomon 4D GTXs. They're a light hiker. They have a relatively good stiff insole, stiff midsole, but they flex still. You can definitely tell the difference when you're hiking wearing those in terms of wearing a true mountain boot, because my calves would actually get tired because of the amount of work your leg has to do opposed to being in a stiffer shank. But those are fantastic. I wore those early season Chukar hunting. I wore those. I actually wore those for both of my snowcock hunts as well, which is 11,000 feet of elevation and big mountain stuff. So I just think those are fantastic boots, but they didn't last. I mean, they were gone by the first third of the season.
Oh, geez.
The whole sole was starting to separate from them.
Oh, gosh.
So it was, So, but I think that you need something that provides good ankle support. It's got to have some degree of stiffness in the midsole so that you can have some efficiency climbing hills. I do like, obviously I like my Lathrops. I think you can find some great boots with Crispy. I think you can find some great boots with Kenetrex.
Okay.
But when you start thinking about those bigger mountain boot styles, those are really going to be where I think you're going to get the most bang for your buck, because they're going to last and they're going to actually provide you with safety and stability in your foot, and some good energy saving construction that allows you to actually conserve energy as you hike, because your foot doesn't flex so much.
Gotcha. Okay. Right on. All right. Someone asked, how far, we talked about this. How far are your dogs ranging or scaling? Again, it's going to really depend for so many different people. It sounds like, just on the terrain, your dogs, your style, all that. Someone asked, how much Gold Bond do you go through in a season?
For some swass, huh? For some swamp ass. Yeah, it's a real thing, man.
Yeah,
It's a real thing.
I'm sure.
It'll take you out the game when you start getting rubbed raw.
Oh, I bet. You're like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, no,
Someone asked, what do Chukar taste like? How I've had Chukar, pen raised, not wild, but how would you describe what they taste like?
It's a white meat still. So it definitely can take on the sort of a bit of the taste of Chukar gets sometimes. It's hard to explain, but it's not the nicest smell in the world. It can sometimes take that on. I think it's more or less how you take care of it. But I mean, to be honest with you, we treat it just like chicken in my household.
Okay.
So we breast them out, and I'll take the whole body, breast and legs, and I put them in a crock pot, and I let it slow cook.
Oh, there you go.
And what that does for me is that I'm able to take every piece of meat off of it. And then I just use it in anything that I would use traditional chicken in. It's going to be it's not going to be as substantial. But you can actually then take that. I make Chukar enchiladas with them. I make Chukar tacos. I make Chukar spaghetti sauce. I make Chukar chili. And so, really anything that you would use chicken for, you just can substitute for Chukar.
Substitute, yeah.
So it does. It's a white meat. It tastes very light. It's a very easy chicken substitute.
That's awesome. Another one. It's actually funny. You'd be surprised how many I got that said, "Where are their honey holes?" It's a stupid amount. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's all right. Well, you never know if you never get it if you never ask. Yeah?
That's true. So kudos for asking. Someone said, "Do they condition themselves for the hill climbing?" Why don't you take that?
Yeah.
That's kind of obvious.
And I think that's one of the things when you talk about people who really identify as Chukar hunters, it's a year-round thought process. So, I mean, for me, I train heavily in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing it for 13 plus years. And so for me, it's a great base for cardio. As long as I continue to roll, I will always have a great base of cardio, but you do have to get out there and put your hiking legs on.
Sure.
So you definitely want to condition, and whether you use a stepper, whether you just do body weight exercises in your house, in your garage. But I mean, thankful for me, I've got big mountains behind me, literally like across the street. So I take the dogs up there and we just hike.
Yeah.
So you do because if you don't, what happens for both you and your dog is you spend the first month just trying to get your lungs back, trying to get your legs back. I think you really sort of take away some of the enjoyment too, because you're sort of trying to get back in shape, using the season to get back in shape. And so you're sort of sucking wind for the first month or so until you're kind of back in it. So I think that if you're serious about it, if it's really something that you love to do, you're just gonna keep some form of a training routine to keep your lungs and your legs. That's really what you need.
Okay. And I guess along those lines with dogs so someone may be coming from, where they don't have mountains in their backyard, running dogs on gravel or something like that to condition their pads. Is that kind of the best you could do to get your dog's pads ready for that? Because that's a wicked terrain.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I never even think about it, because it's just something my dog's pads are so tough because we just run on the rim rock. We run on the nasty stuff all year long. So yeah, if you're coming from an area where you don't have that, you're going to want to do what you can. I know that you can put some stuff on there that helps to toughen their pads. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, you want to kind of get them off the grass. You want to get them on some gravel roads. You want to get them on something to whereas they really start to build some calluses up on those pads and calluses or whatever, but at least start building up, toughen those pads up because that's probably one of the bigger challenges if you're coming from out of state or just from a different hunting style or is your dog's feet. And obviously the easiest way, is just to get dog boots. Or to make your own dog boots or to carry them with you. Because if you get to that point where your dog does blow a pad, at least you can tape them up and they can keep hunting and you don't have to just stick them up because can be a long drive for blown out pads, especially if you only have one dog.
Yeah.
So
That'd be tough.
You either start them off early with pads, with booties on, or toughen them up and then just use them as need be.
Right on. All right. Last one of these questions. How many times do you hit the same spot?
I think it depends on how good it is. So you'll run across spots that are just absolutely chock full of birds. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with hitting it 2 or 3 times a year. But I think anything more than 2 or 3 times, I think is just too much. I think it stifles the adventurous spirit of chukar hunting. I think it stifles your ability to find new spots, because places that were honey holes for me 3 years ago pretty much dried up. Mm-hmm. And so, you go back there and all of a sudden there's no birds anymore, or the birds are a very, very small amount. They moved off somewhere else. And so if you don't go out and find new spots, if you only hunt those spots the same amount of times, then you get to that point where you don't have any new spots to go to, and you're kind of up shit creek without a paddle, and you have to spend the rest of your year scouting for the most part.
Sure.
And so I think if it's an absolute gold mine, I think you can hit it 2 or 3 times in a season, because seasons are like 5.5, 6 months long.
Yeah. You have a long season.
Yeah. I think you'd be fine doing that. But yeah, I think that for me, I try to challenge myself. I try and go to a new spot every weekend, but time constraints are sometimes what they are. Sure. And you can hunt the same hill, but you can hunt it a totally different way and hit birds you've never hit before by just going a different direction.
Yeah. So that's good, man. That's really good. All right. Two last questions here for you, if you don't mind. Talk to the new upland hunter out there, upland hunter, chukar hunter, whatever it might be. Let's say they're heading into their first season. What's a piece of advice that you'd give them?
I think temper your expectations. I think that if it's something kind of like we talked about with podcasting, if it's something that you really have a desire to do for a long period of time, you sort of have to temper it in order for you to have some attainable goals. And so, by realizing that just because a limit is 6 doesn't mean you're even going to touch that in the first year. You might shoot 2 birds in the first year, and that's okay, because what you've done is it's a much sweeter accomplishment when it happens. And I think you learn to respect, without anthropomorphizing a bird too much, you learn to respect it way more than if it were just basically jumped up in your lap. And I think when you do that, you take on a whole new understanding of what it means to be a chukar hunter and what it means to be a bird hunter, what it means to be a hunter in general, is that it's 100% about the experience and not just about the end result. Although I will tell you that it's an important factor to keep people coming. That's why they stock little trout ponds for kids, right? Because they want them to catch fish so that they get excited and want to keep doing it, right? Sure. But I mean, it's important to understand that when you decide that you want to be a hunter, that there is going to be a lot of lows and there's going to be highs. And so you learn to enjoy them each for their own reasons, and you never lose. If you have the opinion, if you have the attitude, if you're never going to lose, you're always going to learn, then every day that you go out, you get better. And then eventually you unlock the riddle. And so then it gets to the point where you go out and you actually have continued success. And then you actually then can start introducing maybe other people to it in a way that maybe is quicker. And much like in martial arts, in jiu-jitsu, my professor has always said, he goes, my goal is that you get better faster than I did, because that means I'm doing something good, right? It should be that you are getting better faster than me, because I've learned the things that I was doing wrong, and I can teach you to avoid those. Same thing with hunting or anything you do in life, right? If you're teaching somebody or if you're getting somebody else involved, hopefully, if you're doing it right, you actually teach them to avoid the things that you maybe did that kind of hindered you for a number of years, or a number of experiences. And so, but just temper your expectations. I just think that go out there and have fun, learn, see, experience it, kind of get your chi on in terms of, becoming one with nature. Because I tell you, for me, it's a place that I go where, get to just shed everything, get to shed all of the stresses, all of the obligations of life, and just get to exist and get to be in the moment. And I think that's the best part about being out there, is that for me, it's just my own little time to center myself. It's like a surfer going surfing, right? You know, they always say, if I go into the water, I get out better than when I went in. And if that somehow translates to how I interact with the world's a better place, right? Yeah. So
I'm laughing because that was a hell of a closing statement right there, man. I like to ask every guest this and just get their thoughts on, you know, everyone's at a different spot. I talked to a lot of people who are brand new, talk to people who've been doing this for 10 years, 3 years, whatever it might be. And I just find it fascinating hearing the different perspectives, kind of like what you're sharing, just on, hey, what, you know, you want someone to get better faster than you learned. I think that's a really fascinating concept. That's really cool.
I think if you're really trying to help somebody, you're really trying to do something for somebody else. I don't really even like to use the word mentorship because I think it's so overused. Like the word passionate, I think it just gets overused and it becomes less impactful when you use it, right? But if you're taking somebody out, like a friend or gosh, even your wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and you take them out for the first time, you want them to have a good experience. And they should be getting better faster than you. Yeah. Because awesome. Of all the things that you've learned, all the challenges that you've conquered and you've gone through, you should be able to help them to avoid those pitfalls. Totally. All right, dude. Rapid fire section at the very end here. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions and just give me kind of your off the cuff answer, and we'll go from there. So first one we kind of already answered. You're rocking the Frankie SLX 20 gauge. That was it was going to ask what your gun of choice is. Mm-hmm. Second question: favorite dog breed besides the two you own? Man, I really hope one day to own a pointer. I do. I mean, I'd awesome like dogs. I'd like to own a pointer. I'd like to get one from my buddy Ryan Mulcahy. Yeah, I'd like to get one of Ryan's. If I ever find myself in a position to get a pointer, I will get one from Ryan Mulcahy. I would be right there with you. He does some awesome work with his dogs, and I just listened to his recent episode he did with Nick Larson. Dude, that was a really. Have you listened to that one yet? I haven't, but I've had Ryan on my. You've had him on. Yeah, Ryan's such a good dude. He's so smart. He's got so much information in that brain of his that, man, it's just he's been a wealth of knowledge. He's been a real great resource for me. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. Okay, how many species of birds have you shot over your dogs? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Nice. What's a bucket list bird or a bird you have not shot yet or not harvested yet? It's funny. I have not shot a pheasant yet. Really? Never shot a pheasant. Tried twice. Okay. First time we just couldn't. We didn't have the right permits to get on the preserve, and then the second time. We tried. It was just not happening. Not working. I think porcupine's gotten in the way more so than anything. Oh no. I think. I mean, I'm probably gonna take some crap for saying this, but I think pheasant are overrated just a tad. Well, I think it's just like chukar hunting, right? I mean, we sort of this is what we do, right? Sure. So people are like, man, that's so rad. I'd like to do that one day, and it's like, yeah, cool. I would like to actually just go on one of those pretty cool South Dakota pheasant hunts. To be totally honest with you, I don't know. Just seems cool. I mean, it just looks fun. Something new, something different, new experience. I think that's it. I think I probably try it once and I'm done. But I mean, Yeah, you want to try it? That's awesome. I think so. All right. 2 more here. Beverage of choice after a hunt. You're going to laugh, but coconut water. Oh, okay. That's a first. That's a first for the Upland Rookie Podcast. I definitely don't. I'm not really one to drink after I hunt, mostly because it's like a 2-3 hour drive to get home. Sure. And I'm that guy who drinks a beer and starts getting real tired. All my motivation goes. So I'm with you. I don't normally drink if I have to drive anywhere. Mostly because it's just, I don't want to end up having to just pull over and sleep in my truck. And So I'm just so tired by the end of it. I just need something just to boost me so I can get home. Once I'm home, then I crack open beer. But
Okay.
yeah, sorry, man. I guess I'm a little boring that way.
No, I like these unique answers. I think coconut water is might be a one and only in the history of this podcast, but we'll see.
Pineapple coconut water too.
Whoa, so. Getting crazy now. Hang on. All right, last one, and you can elaborate on this one a little bit. But I know you're a big gear junkie. I'm going to kind of turn the tables on you. What's some gear you added either last year that you've really found useful, helpful? What's something you've added this year, maybe that you found useful or helpful, or you're really excited about?
One of the things I did just add was a My Medic trauma kit. So I've had a Possibles kit or an Oh Shit kit that I carry. And I wanted to do something a little bit more robust, just because anything can happen out there in Chukar country. And so I wanted to have some more trauma related items that I could use. So I got a My Medic trauma kit that I now carry. It's got a bunch of stuff, pressure bandages, as well as a tourniquet and things like that. So that I'm really excited about. And then, man, really for the most part, that's the only new thing so far that I have added. Pretty much.
What pants are you rocking?
So I have a bunch of different ones that I do have, but the ones, believe it or not, that I love the most are these Eddie Bauer travel chinos that I bought from Costco for about $20.
No way.
Oh yeah. I laugh about it. I mean, I work with companies, but dude, I am like a Costco hunter. I absolutely love it. I think Costco, if you're balling on a budget, then I think Costco definitely has some steals that you can find and to make it to get some good stuff. And so awesome. I was really big into the Wrangler pants. My buddy introduced me to those. They're very much like you would end up getting, what are they called? Shit, I can't remember.
Like a corduroy almost?
No. They're a polyester, they're what is that brand called?
And they're made by Wrangler?
Yeah, they're just like a Wrangler outdoor pant. Wow. You can find them there. I mean, the crappy part with them is that it doesn't seem like there's any manufacturing like minimum standard. So like you could buy the same size and one would be way tighter than the other one. Okay. So, but yeah, I ended up finding these Eddie Bauer travel chinos, and the Costco here gets them every year.
Okay.
And they dry super fast. They're stretchy. And they just fit perfectly. I absolutely love them. I've had them for 2 seasons now, and they are still going strong.
That's awesome, man.
But my other ones that I do wear are and I have 3 different colors of them too, because they are really good pants. The First Light Sawbuck pants.
Oh yeah, I have those.
So a little bit more spendy, but also a very good pant. But man, I love those Eddie Bauer travel chinos.
That's awesome. Hey, balling on a budget. I mean, check out your Costco, check out, places like that. And
dude, I'll be the first one to say it. I call myself a Costco hunter.
I have the Sawbucks and I think it's the Corrugate Guide, the little bit lighter ones. I got those too. If we could marry those 2 pants together, because I want the stretchy waistband in the Sawbuck, and they'd be the perfect pant. I think
they make like a foundry pen or something like that now.
Yeah. I saw that.
I don't have them. I don't know what they like, but yeah, I mean, it just really all depends. For me, I just want something that dries really fast, it's super stretchy, and something that breathes relatively well. Sure. That doesn't give you swamp ass. And those pants actually really damn good pants. Yeah. At least I think for $20. Hey, you can go wrong.
You roll at $20, of course. You roll with those. What about your top? What are you rocking? Just rocking kind of a 1-layer thing when you're hiking?
So that's when I get real particular about what I wear, because my legs stay pretty decent because I'm hiking. So I don't wear thermals or anything underneath it. I just straight pants. But I always wear the First Light 150 wick. Crude. I always wear a t-shirt because I do get hot.
Sure.
And then the absolute best, the best piece of gear that First Light makes is their Klamath hoodie, which is like a grid fleece.
Okay.
That thing I wear, I've got it again in 3 different colors, and I wear it every time I go out hunting. It's the perfect layer.
Oh, nice.
It is absolutely the perfect layer. It breathes so well. It keeps you warm, keeps you cool.
Is it like a merino material?
No, it's a grid fleece. It's a fleece top.
Okay.
It's a grid fleece. Wow. And it's got a perfect hoodie that nicely forms around. It's got a zip that goes, what is it? Like a half zip or whatever. I don't know how far it goes down, but it goes down significantly far.
Okay.
And yeah, just the best piece, in my opinion, the best piece of gear that First Light makes is that Klamath hoodie.
Nice. Very cool. Well, Travis, I think that's all I got for you, brother. I've really enjoyed just getting to know you a little more, getting to know your story, hearing more about Chukar. It's definitely got me excited. I have a possibility of going out to Utah this year later in the season, so we'll see if it happens. But this has been really fun.
You never know. Gotta get on the calendar, buddy, because that time will get eaten up.
Yeah, it will. I'm doing a lot of early season hunting this year up in North Dakota, Montana, things like that. So we'll see. We'll see if it happens. Grouse are definitely high on my list this year. Sharptail, Huns, sage grouse. So we'll see. We'll see if it happens. If not this year, maybe next year. But
who knows?
Yeah.
You always got to leave stuff for next year.
Exactly, man. So, how can people get a hold of you if they have questions, podcasts, all that? Just Upchukar.
Sure. Yeah, you could just go on upchukar.com and you could just scroll down to the bottom. You can leave a comment and go straight to me. If you just want to reach me directly, you can just go to upchukarpodcast@gmail.com and throw me an email that way. Or on Instagram, you can just direct message me. And my big thing is always getting back to people. So it's an important factor for me. Frustrated me in the very beginning. People never getting back to me. So I try to make sure that I return the courtesy that I wish I got. Was to respond back to people.
That's awesome. Well, Travis, thanks so much, man, for your time. This has been a blast, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more soon.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
See you, buddy. Bye-bye.
Well, that is a wrap of episode 25 with Travis Warren of the Upchukar podcast. Travis, once again, man, thank you so much. I've looked up to you for a long time and love just hearing your story, your transparency, and just getting to know you on a little bit more personal level. And I definitely want to go chase some Chukar now. I really do. I've been saying that for the last few years, and I'm definitely going to make some plans, get out and chase those red-legged devils. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, share it with a friend, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for all your support. Thanks for the messages. Thanks for just continuing to engage and listen with this podcast. It's really, really been a fun thing to do. And hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned for next week, another episode next Tuesday. So anyways, that's all I got. You guys have a great rest of your week and take care. Hey, remember, if you're not lucky enough to hunt with or own a Brittany, don't worry. Any bird dog is better than no bird dog. Go put some miles on those boots and have fun.